as well as service members and, of course, helicopters and rescuers as well. This is a developing story. It is changing by the minute as we speak. There have been reports of fatalities, but those reports come from the northern parts of Florida, which was due to a tornado. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
All right, for more on this, Daniel Schrag, Professor of Environmental Science and Engineering and Director of the Harvard University Center for the Environment, joins us live from Cambridge. Mr. Schrag, thank you so much for joining us right here on WION World is One. Sir, the storm weakened from Category 5 to Category 3 when it struck Florida. Intensity of the storm can change again. What's the damage at this point, and which are some of the worst hit areas?
Well, it's the middle of the night in Florida right now, and the winds are still blowing. The rain is still coming down. Reports were in St. Petersburg, which is well north of where the storm center was. There was 5 inches of rain, or nearly 12 centimeters, over 12 centimeters of rain in 1 hour. That's an extraordinary amount of rainfall, and that's happening right now. And so it's too early to assess the damage. Tomorrow morning, when the sun comes up and the storm has passed over Florida into the Atlantic, that will be the time to assess the damage. Right now, this is an incredibly large storm and affecting a very large area of Florida.
Sir, what are the preparations looking like at this point leading up to this?
Well, Florida is not surprised by hurricanes. I think the surprise of this one was how quickly it grew. Sunday night, this wasn't even a hurricane, and it just became a hurricane late Sunday night. And by the middle of the day, on Monday, it was already a Category 4 storm, and by the mid-afternoon, it was a Category 5 storm, the highest category, with winds over 160 miles per hour. Really extraordinary growth, and that we think is due to the fact that the Gulf of Mexico is so warm, and it's warm because the whole world is warming up, and that adds to the risk.
Mr. Schrag, President Biden has urged everyone to listen to the advice of local officials. Do you feel there is some kind of reluctance among people to evacuate still, or authorities are, or the warnings being given by authorities are not being taken seriously in the midst of this kind of a storm?
Well, unfortunately, for a storm this big, and there was a lot of uncertainty about just how powerful the winds were going to be when it actually made landfall. It was a Category 5 storm this morning, but it was expected to weaken because as it came close to the coast, there were winds, high altitude winds that were disrupting the hurricane. And that's a good thing. That meant that it was going to weaken. But let's be clear, it's great that it wasn't a Category 5 storm with winds over 160 miles an hour. But when it made landfall, it still had winds at 120 miles an hour. And that can do incredible damage, tearing houses apart. Not as bad as a Category 5 storm, but still very damaging. As soon as it makes landfall, it weakens enormously, but still very high winds, and that can cause a lot of problems. People don't like to leave their homes in these situations. They like to say, I'm just going to stay in my home and do the best I can. The problem is, if this was a slightly stronger storm, no home would be safe. And we've seen this in a variety of places around Florida. When the storms get really big, the damage can be so great that no place is safe.
Well, here's hoping that people are safe and they can safely return to their homes and the damage is at the minimal. Here's only what one can hope for. Of course, we'll need to wait and watch. Of course, for people in Florida, they're not new to this kind of or at least for storms coming in. But the way this one has escalated, as you mentioned earlier, that has really taken everyone by surprise. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast. That was Professor Daniel Schrag joining me.
The top story we're tracking for you right now is coming in from West Asia, where the Palestinian militant group Hamas has said that it has agreed to a new ceasefire proposal it received from Egypt and Qatar. This comes as the Israeli military continued its ground activity in Rafah to expand what it called its security zone in southern Gaza. The Israeli military released a video showing multiple air attacks on the Gaza Strip. The Israeli Defense Forces said that it struck several weapons storage facilities, rocket launchers and military structures. It also added that dozens of militants were killed during the airstrikes. On the other hand, Hamas has agreed to a new Gaza ceasefire deal it received 2 days ago from Egypt and Qatar. In a televised address, a top Hamas official said that they have dealt with the deal positively, while also urging Israel to back the proposal.
2 days ago, we received a proposal from the mediating brothers in Egypt and Qatar. We dealt with it positively and agreed to it. We hope that the occupation will not obstruct it or strain the efforts of the mediators.
Well, reports suggest that the new proposal mandates Hamas to release 5 of the Israeli hostages it is holding each week. In response, the Israeli Prime Minister's office said that it held a series of discussions based on the proposal it received from mediators. Now, following this, the Prime Minister's office came up with a counter-offer to the mediators in full coordination with the United States. However, there was no confirmation as to whether Israel has agreed to the new ceasefire proposal from Qatar and Egypt. Meanwhile, Hamas's military wing has released another video of an Israeli man held hostage in Gaza. The man, identified as Elkanah Bobot, was abducted by the militant group from Nova Music Festival in southern Israel during the October 7 attacks. The video reportedly showed Bobot pleading for his freedom in Hebrew.
Please help me. I miss my wife, my son, everyone. I miss my family. Why? What will you say to him? A 5-year-old boy, celebrating his birthday soon. Why? Please get me out of here, please. It's hard for me, I'm begging.
In the midst of this, protesters took to the streets in Tel Aviv, calling on the Israeli government to stop the attacks on Gaza and secure the release of hostages held captive by Hamas. They further criticized Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu while also calling for fresh elections. In other news, local living in southern Beirut in Lebanon have condemned the Israeli strike, saying that they have targeted a residential neighborhood. The IDF carried out its first major airstrike on Lebanon after a ceasefire was reached between Israel and Hezbollah back in November last year. The attack came in retaliation for rockets fired from Lebanon into northern Israel. Meanwhile, Hezbollah leader Naim Qassem has called the Israeli attacks as unacceptable. The Hezbollah chief further warned that they would resort to alternatives if Israel does not stop its attacks.
But if Israel does not adhere to it at all, and the Lebanese state is unable to achieve the necessary political outcome, we will have no choice but to resort to other options.
Severe winter weather hit the United States Midwest this week with snow and strong winds causing widespread disruption. In Iowa, blizzard conditions strained cars and closed roads, while Kansas faced a blizzard that prompted travel warnings. Eastern Nebraska saw school closures and road shutdowns due to snow drifts and blowing snow. I leave you with these visuals, and I'll see you at this desk tomorrow. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
An outbreak of tornadoes in the U.S. central Midwest region, and the planes left behind a trail of destruction with homes ripped apart. Severe weather brought powerful hails, gusty winds, and dust storms that knocked out power lines, uprooted trees, and flattened the structures. At least 4 people were injured. Storms shattered residential neighborhood and farms near the Union City. 2 tornadoes rolled over the state overnight, impacting the rural communities on the outskirts. 1 death was reported. A spawning dust storm and also swept through Kansas, filling the sky over a residential neighborhood in Great Bend. Nearly 45,000 people plunged into darkness due to power outages. Thousands of people in the Houston area were faced with sweltering heat without power following severe storms that claimed at least 7 lives. Storms packing winds up to 161 kilometers per hour tore through the region. The ravaging winds damaged homes, fell power lines, and left more than 800,000 people without electricity. The twisters blew roofs off homes, leveling them to ground. Tornado-force winds and thunderstorms shattered window glass in high-rise residential buildings and swayed trees. Houston residents packed into a Costco grocery store to take shelter. Severe tornadoes and storm also hit southwest Michigan this week, destroying storefronts and prompting Governor Gretchen Whitmer to declare a state of emergency. The barrage of severe storms unleashed heavy rain, leading to localized flooding on the streets. A doorbell camera recorded the moment tornado winds took down several trees in Kalamazoo, forcing the family to take shelter in the basement.
The tornadoes continue to spread mayhem across the United States. Forecasters are warning of a wave of dangerous storms through parts of the South, after storms a day earlier had left at least 2 people dead in Tennessee and 1 who is said to have been killed in North Carolina. The storms have also brought torrential rains across the country this week, from the plains to the Midwest and now the southeastern part of the United States. Now, the images that you're looking at on your screen are from Tennessee. Officials said that a tornado had damaged or destroyed over 100 homes in Columbia. And amidst the storms, the National Weather Service has issued tornado warnings that stretch past midnight in North Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, Missouri, and Kentucky. The parts of Arkansas and Mississippi were also under a tornado watch through the pre-dawn hours. The various aerial images showed the damage to the storms. One storm that rumbled across northeastern Tennessee had brought high winds that knocked down power lines and trees. Now, busy hub airports in Atlanta and Charlotte, North Carolina reported delays. The National Weather Service's Storm Prediction Center had cited an enhanced risk for severe weather from Texas to South Carolina. Another video captured by a resident showed the aftermath of a devastating tornado. The winds gushing across the highway were so powerful that it toppled cars, resulting in injury to at least 1 individual. In Michigan, tornadoes swirled through the southwestern part of the state in and around Kalamazoo County. Now, Kalamazoo County's Portage area was hard hit as a FedEx facility was ripped apart, leaving at least about 50 people trapped inside because of the damaged power lines. A video that was recorded on a doorbell camera showed the moment the tornado hit as it pulled up several of the trees in the area. And across the nation in the month of April, 381 tornadoes were reported across the United States. According to the preliminary storm reports from the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Storm Prediction Center, That's roughly twice the long-term average number of tornadoes that are witnessed in a span of a month. And amongst the states with the highest reported tornado activity, states such as Iowa stands out with 56 tornadoes. Other states that also witnessed dozens of tornadoes include the likes of Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Kentucky and Texas.
And while severe weather has wreaked havoc across vast regions of the United States, claiming at least 37 lives. Now, the destructive tornadoes, which began on Friday, have impacted millions of people from Texas to North Carolina. At least 12 fatalities were reported in Missouri, where tornadoes hit the hardest. Governor Mike Kehoe described the widespread destruction, noting that hundreds of homes, schools and businesses were either obliterated or heavily damaged. The official in Butler County recounted a tragic scene where a tornado left a home reduced to a pile of debris. The dust storms triggered by fierce winds in Texas and Kansas led to deadly highway accidents. In Texas, a collision involving approximately 38 vehicles resulted in 4 deaths, while in Kansas, a massive crash of over 55 cars claimed 8 lives. At least 2 people died in Alabama due to the severe weather, and much of the state had reported damages. Governor Kay Ivey has said in a post on social media that there were damages in 52 out of 67 counties. The downed trees and torn off roofs became a common sight in Calera in Alabama.
We started earlier this morning. We rode through, cleared everything, trying to help people see where the help needed to be. We stopped by this gentleman's house right here. We have a bunch of trees on his yard and stuff, so stopped by to see if he needed help. And that's why we're here now, about to help him out.
On the other hand, Oklahoma faced a dual threat as high winds reaching 83 miles per hour fueled nearly 150 wildfires. These blazes consumed 170,000 acres and demolished nearly 300 buildings, including a farmhouse belonging to Governor Kevin Stitt. The strong gusts also overturned several large trucks. Additional fatalities occurred across the South and Midwest, with 6 deaths in Mississippi, 3 in Alabama, including an 82-year-old woman, and 3 in Arkansas, leaving 29 injured.
I signed a state of emergency last night. It appears that the National Weather Service is looking at preliminary data, and we could have as many as 12 tornadoes that came through our state over the last 48 hours. I will also tell you a bit of good news. When we made our report late last evening around 9 p.m., we still had 3 individuals missing. 2 of those were in Walthall County. One, I believe, was in Jeff Davis. All 3 of those individuals have been found and are alive.
Flood warnings stretched across parts of 9 states from Texas to Kentucky, compounding the crisis. By Sunday evening, over 320,000 residents were left without electricity, and this is according to Power Outages U.S. Emergency declarations were issued in Arkansas, Georgia, and Oklahoma. To address the escalating situation, President Donald Trump has announced that the National Guard has been mobilized in Arkansas to assist with recovery efforts. Posting on Truth Social, he and First Lady Melania Trump urged the nation to pray for those affected by the catastrophic storms.
At least 15 people were killed across the central U.S. as tornadoes and other extreme storms hit several states, including Texas, Arkansas, and Oklahoma. After the storms hit the Southern Plains region on Saturday, hundreds of thousands of people were without power in Texas, and the Cook County's sheriff said that 7 people were dead after a tornado ripped through the valley north of Dallas. Heavy storms in Oklahoma damaged infrastructure, power lines, trees and farmlands. In the aftermath of the storm, some roads were littered with down power lines and fallen trees. Emergency services are assessing damage to the affected areas. At least 2 people were dead after the tornado hit the county there. Throughout the region, tens of thousands of people were without power. Officials in the town of Claremore, which is close to Tulsa, also announced on social media that the city was shut down as a result of the damage, citing impassable roads and down power lines.
Es que es demasiada agua, entonces todo esto pues sí ya se salió lo de la laguna, entonces pues más que ahora sí que los que no tienen que salir mejor que no salgan de su casa, porque la verdad está feo la naturaleza.
Pues que ayude las autoridades a los que están más en peligro, oiga. Porque yo si quiera pues me subo para arriba, pero como acá tengo una amiga que dice ya están hasta las orejas de agua en la Independencia y en muchas colonias.
Pa nije prvi put da se desilo ni u mojoj istoriji poznavanja pa manje više na svakih par godina se dešava. Isto ovo je da kažem nakon 2014. godine možda jedna od najjačih poplava koja se desila u mojoj istoriji. Deset puta gore što se odrazilo na nekih preko 350 za sad domaćinstava sa tendencijom za rast.
Pa sana je samo krenula da raste, ja trenutno ne mogu da dođem do kuće, možda bi mogli za 3 do 4 dana da dođemo do kuće, ne znamo tačno kada će sana da se spusti. Pa ljudi govore da je najgora poplava bila godine 2014. ali po meni je ovo najgora poplava koju sam doživio, jer je mene baš jako udarila.
Ay, Dios mío. Ay, Dios mío. Ay, Dios mío. Dios santo. Dios santo. Ay, por la madre. Oh, this is the house. What? Dios mío. Fueron los hechos, el tornado. Yo estaba justamente en esta misma calle ahí adentro. El tornado pasó justo delante de mí. Yo casi presento que fue como el centro del tornado. Todos los techos cayeron, matas, árboles caídos. Fue sumamente terrible, faros. Fue sumamente terrible. La calle ya la cerraron. Esta niña ya, pobrecita. Justamente me llegó la alerta un minuto antes de que ocurriera.
We've got a total loss on our canopy. We've lost our compressor units to our coolers. We had several vehicles, tractor trailers that were damaged, our roof, the roof to our storage building. Trying to think of what, there's just so much. We've lost all of our food, all of the stuff that's in the freezers and refrigerators, everything in our cooler with the compressor going out. So the food's a pretty big, I mean, this is all a big loss. We've lost all of our pumps. They were pulled out of the ground.